Actually, I started from movement for self-esteem. In 1991, one psychologist, he brought from United States this idea, like movement for self-esteem. I guess that in United States it was a little bit earlier, but for us it was, at that moment, it was a very new idea. And I felt that it's really very necessary for our society, for our culture, because at that moment we just regained our independence, and being in this under Soviet regime, a lot of people, they had really very low self-esteem, and many of them felt that they need something to, I don't know, to encourage them, to inspire them. So I went to that meeting, and this idea, I find it very, very nice, very interesting for me. But maybe because I'm quite of kind of academical person, I decided that, okay, if I want to be engaged in this movement, I have to learn. Actually, I should be very systematic, and the idea of this movement is that you should learn yourself, accept yourself, and then you can spread the knowledge for the rest of the world. So I decided to learn more about me, and at that moment I was just like young mother, because actually my son was like 1 year old, and this experience of motherhood, it was very fresh, and somehow I started to feel that experience of man and woman is really different in society. So I start to look for literature, psychological literature, which will help me to understand myself like woman. And suddenly I understood that there is no such a literature, because all classical literature, and at that moment we already started to get possibility to read those books, because in Soviet times psychology was forbidden like science. There was no possibility to read books like that. So for us it was really something very new. And they started to translate all those classic, like fathers of psychology, like Freud, Jung, Fromm, Adler, all classical psychologists, and no one is reading about women, or it's just very small chapter, like, okay, in woman case it's the same, but somehow in opposite. And for me it was not enough opposite in just one chapter, because I felt that it's really very, very different experience. And I started consciously looking for literature which was about women. And at that moment, of course, those texts were very, very broad, how to say, spectrum, starting from what we sometimes call like yellow literature, those women mystique, like archetypes, goddesses, and stuff like that, and ending with really very feministic literature. But when we regained our independence, a lot of different movements started here in Lithuania, and feminists from abroad, from Western countries, and especially from Nordic countries, they started to come. I mean, there were a lot of projects, and something started, some changes. And in 1995, the first feministic book was translated into Lithuanian. It was a collection of articles, like feministic articles, and the whole book was titled Feminist Discourses. And so in 95, it was the first time when I read really feministic classical text, and for me it was cultural shock, because it's kind of like you feel that, okay, you can recognize some parts of your experience, but on the other hand, you just do not want to believe that everything is so bad, because it's kind of easier to live when you think that, it could, I don't know, like romantic, those glasses. It's
Yeah.
and for me it was real shock, because at that moment I was, if it like 30 years old. I'm born in 65. So it was kind of shock. I digest for a moment, and then I decided to read that book again, just to check if it's really so bad, And when I read it next time, I understood that, yeah, reality is even worse than is in those texts, because it was like post-Soviet situation. And I don't know, I just somehow felt that I should do something with that.